Hi, and welcome to this walkthrough of how I built the Mr. Fox rig. This is just a sort of behind the scenes, not so much a how-to, but just an idea of the process of rigging in CelAction. So as you can see, I do a decent amount of work in the pool before bringing anything over into an actor. I start by pulling together all the shapes into the elements that they're supposed to be in, and then throw together a sort of rough hierarchy, because when you bring things into CelAction from either Photoshop or Illustrator, it remembers the display order of the layers that you had there. So if you throw together everything in a sort of rough hierarchy in the pool and then bring it into the actor, if you've built it with correct display orders in Photoshop or Illustrator, you've actually got a really solid starting point for your display orders within CelAction. So now that I'm over in the actor itself, I'm using pivots that I made in the design files to get my anchor points right and then deleting them when I don't need them anymore. I'm turning the body into a limber, and the shapes that are going to be within the limber include the whole turn. I'm renaming the control points in the limber, because the default naming of them can be quite confusing. It's quite nice to know just immediately when you select an object whether it's an upper or a lower. You can see I'm adjusting the bend points as well by having them a bit closer together. I get a bit tighter bend in the body. Just testing that leg there real quick before I call it leg B, and then I'll duplicate it to make my leg A. I'll do the same with the arm, just make one arm and then duplicate. It saves a lot of work rather than doing it twice. That means if I ever want to update it in the design file, I only have to update it once. So again, I'm going to make the tail a limber, and I'll move those bend points just to get the bend that I want. And I'll name the control points and bend points so that they're really clear for any animator who might use them. By default, any element that you have in the pool, the anchor point of it will be in the center of it. So when it comes to controls, like for the tail control, I'm moving the anchor points so that they rotate around a point that makes the tail bend more nicely. I did the same on the body as well. So I'm constructing the face now, making all my different face controllers. Always add a pupil control so that you can look around nice and easily without having to move each pupil individually. I'm doing my pupil masking now. Some people like to add blanks in the design file, and I think that just comes from how CelAction used to work, but I like to add blanks within the CelAction file just to keep the design file as small as I possibly can. Particularly when you're doing things in 4K and above, it's really important in a bitmap file to really economize. So I've deliberately kept the blinks separate from the eyes here, and I'll shape link them, and it means that the pupils mask into the eye shapes rather than the blink shapes, and when the blink shapes come in, the pupils will disappear. So again, I've just made one arm, and I'm going to name it A, and then I'm going to duplicate to get my B side, and there's an arms control so that if I wanted to shrug or twist or anything like that, I've just got a single control for both arms, which can save a bit of time when you're animating. The nose is a limber in this actor, much like the tail and the body. I think it's going to be really fun. Nice little bounce when he's walking. So again, moving my bend points to where I need them and renaming the control points and bend points as makes sense. For this one, the mouth shapes are part of the nose shapes just because of the design. It just was really nice to keep that black line going straight into the mouth. It just worked really nicely in the design. So I've shape linked the base control of the nose to the nose shapes so that you'll be able to toggle through them really easily. When an animator wants to change the shape of a limber, it can be kind of annoying to try and have to select the limber itself, so to shape link to a controller is a really good way of just making an animator's life easier. Ears again are going to be a really similar story to all the limbers we've done already. if you're renaming a bunch of stuff. So for example, I have this ear which I want to be ear A. If you go into that modify menu, it can be a really quick way of batch renaming stuff. So this is a fun one. When you want to duplicate a limb bone in CelAction V4, it'll create a new category for you, so you don't have to worry about sorting out your categories afterwards, it'll just work. There we go, shape linking the ears now. An ear control. Just checking all my rotation points, making sure everything's working nicely. And now here comes the fun part, color coding things so that it's really easy to see exactly what you're looking for really quickly. I'm working with a new system at the moment where there are 3 colors for each type of thing. So 3 colors for the body, 3 colors for the hair, 3 colours for the arms and legs, etc. And the idea is the lightest colour is for the controls, the mid colour is for the stuff that you're supposed to be clicking on, and the dark stuff is the stuff that you're sort of not supposed to be clicking on. So visually it's just really quick and easy to see exactly where stuff is that you need. So again, I'm using this modify menu to batch update things really quickly rather than individually going through one by one until I get to here. And so it looks lovely in the hierarchy, but then the other thing that you can do is make it all nice and coloured in the wireframe. The only thing you have to do separately is when you've got markers, they don't update with the show in wireframe function. You have to actually go into the marker. You could batch do all the markers, but it'll batch change all the shapes as well. And it's quite nice to have different shaped markers for different things. The design of Mr. Fox was done by Luke Sault, a very talented animator and designer, and I'm really excited he let me build this rig for the website. So here now I've got the actor to a pretty decent standard. I'm pretty happy with it, so I took it back to Luke to see if he was happy with how his design was looking, and he came back with a couple of notes, which is really great. Because he's an animator as well, so when you're rigging stuff it's amazing to get animators' feedback because you can think ahead as much as you like, but there'll always be something that an animator goes, oh actually no, it'd be really nice if this could be like this instead. And then obviously because Luke did this design for this as well, he has a whole other perspective on the rig. So the first thing he wanted was a more textured shadow, which I think works really nicely. Another note was that the foot shapes that I had so far were great for most views, but just for the front it wasn't quite working, so I'm making some extra front feet. Really important to keep your layers named nicely in Photoshop and make sure to keep an unmerged file of any rigs that you're doing, just in case you ever want to go back and make changes. Here Luke was finding the black line on the body was really interfering with the teeth as we posed up the turn of the character. So I'm going over that to hide the black a little bit. It was a challenging design, this one actually, because the idea was to try and make it look like a child had drawn it in pencil. And it's an interesting design conversation how to make it look sort of childish and crayon-y, but still make it look sort of professional and neat. Here I'm just adding some more eye shapes. Sort of in between the fully open and what I had initially as the halfway blink, so a sort of a 3/4 blink and an extra happy shape as well. These blink shapes weren't quite symmetrical enough, so I've just duplicated my one side for the other. I think in the end I'm quite pleased I did the eyes individually rather than duplicating, just because of that design style of trying to make it look a little bit childish. If it had been too perfect and duplicated, I think it would have been a shame. There were a couple of mouth shapes that were getting a little bit too close to the eyes in some cases, so I've just squeezed those a little bit so that they're not interfering. And also adding some extra sad mouth shapes for lip syncing and expressions. I'll often colour code groups in Photoshop just to keep clear in my mind what's new, or sometimes I'll colour code by angle. Whatever system works for you, go for it. Merging all my green dots in for the limbers in the merged version of the file. So here's something when you're shape linking controls to things. Initially I just duplicated the one control shape which you toggled through, but if you're trying to pick a shape as an animator, you can't really see what you're picking. So this is a nice technique for giving the animators a sort of visual, even in wireframe, and that's by cutting out a shape so you get a negative. That'll show up really nicely in wireframe for them. So in the initial design, we thought there would be just all the front views, so a front, front three-quarter and a side, and we wouldn't bother with the back views, but actually we realised with just a few extra shapes we could provide a full turnaround. So I need to do back versions of the ears. So here I'm just adding in my extra mouth shapes, getting rid of those controllers that were just duplicated, and now you can see their negative shape matching up with the mouth shapes that they're shape linked to. Adding in the extra ear shapes that I need for the back and back three-quarter views. With the ears I didn't bother making specific control shapes for those shape links. I didn't think you'd get as much out of it as you do with the mouth. Adding in the extra eye shapes and blink shapes. And feet shapes. Just double checking my notes to make sure I've got everything, and I think it's ready for posing. So I'm going to take it into animate mode and try and get a good front view that I'm pleased with. You'll see me flicking through the poses now. I'm just trying to get a really nice turn, which will then be in the actions of the final character that you can download. I'm having an experiment now. I need to make the other side, and I can't decide in the moment whether or not I like that body shape when it's flipped. I make the decision in the end that I don't like that flipped body, so I flip the body back and bring the shapes around instead. Looks a lot more balanced this way, I think. A lot of characters, when you get a turnaround in their actions, it'll be a 5-point turnaround. So front 3/4, side, back 3/4 and back, which you then flip for the opposite side. But because I've decided I don't like the flipped body, I'm making a full 8-point turnaround so that it's all there, you don't have to flip anything. I realised as I tried to pose that back 3/4 view that I didn't like how the tail was finished at the end. It didn't look quite right, so I'm just adding a base little bit of fur so that it looks more natural in that view. And because that's in the merged file just named the same, I'm able to just update it. I don't have to bring it in again from the pool. Onto the back 3/4. Using the onion skin tactically here, so that I can use the front 3/4 to help me pose the back 3/4, but I can get my arms and my ears in the right places. And my nose. And same with the back again, using the onion skin tactically to get the front view to help me. This was quite a fun part of this rig. I was only given one angle for this character as a drawing, so building out the whole turnaround from that one angle was really good fun. There was a little bit more back and forth and experimentation than I normally have, which was really good. Now you can see them coming together, almost there with a full turn. Checking that body doesn't flip at any point in the turnaround. Happy with how the ears are looking. I'm just messing with the shadow to make sure that that looks natural. I'm in the actions panel to add them all in. And that's the process of Mr. Fox. I hope you've enjoyed seeing behind the scenes. Check out this rig and many others at CelActionRigs.com. If you'd like to learn how to rig or animate in CelAction2D, check out CelActionTutors.com for a mentored course with Kath Lloyd, an experienced animator and educator. Also check out her YouTube channel for handy tips and tricks.